Yeah. Yeah, I went to a lot of competition.
Hello. All right, good evening, everyone. Thank you all so much for joining us. My name is Benjamin Johnson. I'm the events coordinator here for McNally Robinson Booksellers in Saskatoon. This event is being held on Treaty 6 territory, which is the homeland of the Cree, Saulteaux, Dene, Dakota, Lakota, and Nakota, and the homeland of the Métis Nation. As we listen to our author share her words today, may we also recognize the Indigenous stories that have been shared on this land since time immemorial. It's my pleasure to welcome you to the Saskatoon launch of Still by Joanna Cockerline, published by Porcupine's Quill. Thank you so much to Joanna for being here this evening and for working with us to make this event happen. Just a note, yes, I love the enthusiasm, yeah. Just a note that this event is being live streamed, so please be aware of the webcam off to our right. Please take a moment to silence your phones as well. If you'd like to buy copies of Still, you can find them on the signing table behind me, as well as on the desk by where you first walked in. You're welcome to get your book signed before you purchase it. Just actually purchase it if you do that, please and thank you. Finally, we will have a Q&A period following the reading, so please think of some hard-hitting questions for our author. She said the harder the better. And now, to introduce our author. Joanna Cockerline is a CBC Literary Awards prize winner who has been published in national and international journals and magazines such as Room, The Fiddlehead, and International Human Rights Arts, and the international short story collection, Seeing Our Sisters. Her writing has been nominated for the Pushcart Prize. She and her family live in the unceded Syilx, Okanagan territory of Kelowna, BC, where she teaches creative writing at UBC Okanagan. Everyone, please give her a warm welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. It's really wonderful to be here. It's my first time in Saskatchewan at all, and I'm honored to be at such a great indie. I have been perusing the shelves and absolutely could spend weeks here. So thank you very much. So I'll be reading from Still, which is a story of Kayla, who is an 18-year-old who finds herself fleeing across the country after a difficult situation and finding herself on the streets of Kelowna, BC. And there she befriends Little Zoe, who shows her the ropes and becomes her best friend and also goes missing. A fellow sex worker, Little Zoe, is a very enigmatic character who's made a really big difference to Kayla. So Kayla begins a complex process of trying to find her friend, and in the process finds herself. So it's very much a story of community on the streets. It's a story of friendship and of resiliency and hope. So I'll read from the start of it and then a couple of later scenes. Leon Avenue, downtown Kelowna, BC, Friday, 9 p.m. The night Little Zoe disappeared, Kayla had been working Leon Avenue, the skies deepening into starlessness. Cars trickled by, some people going about their business, some there to look, some more than looking. The street was quiet in the February cold. The neon open sign of the pub hummed, only lit by the letter E. The usual people were scattered down the street, smoking or talking to themselves. Someone's radio on the sidewalk beside their sleeping bag emptied into the night. Streetlights hung their heads. A man pulled up in a dirty Ford pickup. Kayla strode over, the heels of her boots grinding grit. 7 months in, this life was part survival, part dare to herself. How much? She figured this would just be another quick date. Not the first of the night and not the last. But leaning towards the truck's open window, she caught a hint of a smell she'd once known. Horses and hay and dusty sunlight, the mulchy depth of a barn. She felt a stab of memory. Her eyes took it all in, the way she had trained herself to do. The truck had more than a few days of fast food wrappers and coffee cups on the floor, along with empties of Labatt 50. On the passenger seat, along with a jar of peanut butter and a knife licked clean, lay a nail puller and a rasp, glinting under the streetlight. Farrier tools for shoeing horses. Like many things, they could become weapons. but there was a hint of the barn. "Let's go to City Park," she told him, pointing up the street towards the lake. She preferred to work in the parking lot there. It was close and efficient, and if she ever got into trouble, she had the whole street community nearby. By day, people walked their dogs there, took selfies by the lake with the backdrop of sloping green mountains. Summers it brimmed with picnicking families, ice cream dribbled kids toting inflatables. But on this night, the only sign of a person was the swell of a sleeping bag under a tree and a brimming shopping cart. She put her face on his shoulder, just for a moment, to breathe in that scent of a farm. From the way he moved towards her, he may have thought that feeling was for him. But she just did her job, he did his. She would save the memory of that farm smell for later. Looking back, trying to recall any detail about little Zoe's disappearance, she remembered only the vividness of that smell. How even the hint of a scent could transport you somewhere you thought you'd left for good. Remind you of dreams you'd once had, the things you had done, of who you once were, or could have been, of who you were now. Later, alone in her sleeping bag on the sidewalk, looking up at the sky, the stars so hard and bright, she breathed in her hands, seeking out any trace of the farm. She at once hoped for a hint of what she'd once loved, and at the same time was afraid she might find it. So now I'll read a section about little Zoe. Little Zoe knew who needed to feel big and who needed to feel small, who wanted their rough edges to be smoothed and who needed to be roughened. She could tell who needed to feel powerful and respected and who needed to lick the bottom of her stilettos. She would make up whatever stories they needed to hear, listen to whatever stories they needed to tell. And little Zoe's kindness wasn't reserved just for the Johns. She would lend money when you needed it, and she would listen when you needed it too. With Derek, days when he wore his fishing hat because his ideas were flowing fast, she shared her time, encouraged him to go on. For Mama B or Gloria, whose bodies reflected their years, she was there to help set up their tents or run an errand. She would help Lily with the bandages on her bad arm. And when Alexa's bag was stolen, little Zoe gave her makeup, including her best foundation, because Alexa needed it more to hide the stubble that no longer belonged to who she was. In the same way Nelson could repair an old Walkman or MacGyver together a broken cart, little Zoe knew how to fix what needed fixing, heal what had been hurt. She was able to see the good and special in someone when they could not see it in themselves. She knew how to divine something hidden, buried, even yet unformed. She knew how to ask the questions that mattered. Kayla had her first real conversation with little Zoe when the autumn leaves had just started to turn, not long after Kayla had arrived in town. Little Zoe had brought her to sit on the sand by the lake. They were far enough from the playground that you couldn't hear the children. Kayla didn't yet know that the sounds of their laughter made her friend sad. Little Zoe was in her bikini and wearing the unicorn necklace that one of the street outreach workers had given her. Songs were floating from boats across the water. Seagulls flew above. The sun was shining on her face. "So what do you love most, Kayla?" little Zoe had asked. Kayla was silent. What she loved most? What I loved? She stopped. Saying it out loud would only bring the pain of its absence. "It matters," little Zoe said, looking at Kayla harder than expected. "As a kid, I didn't get a chance to love for long, usually, so I chose to love a lot wherever I am, right in that moment. No matter what you've been through, you still have that," little Zoe continued. "Ask yourself what you love, and love it. Love it anyway." And as Kayla came to know, as autumn's leaf fell, as the weather paled into winter, Little Zoe's love was as big as she was little. From the morning's first hint of light to the music drifting through the alleys, how the songs overlapped, separate, but together making something new. In all she saw, in all she did, she loved well and she loved hard. And for all the people and things she loved, little Zoe also loved heroin. She had loved it and loved it more ever since she was a girl. My foster sister, my sister, was the one who first shot me up, she told Kayla that afternoon. She said it would make it easier, erase the pain, you know. She wasn't a bad person. She shot me up to protect me. She did what worked for her. The boats on the water, a toddler in water wings, the sunlight on little Zoe's shoulders. I'd been at that place for a while. My foster father, heroin was to make it easier for me, you know? Kayla remembered the lingering warmth of the sand, light playing on the lake, how little Zoe's rawness was a gift, something sacred that she was giving Kayla. That was the summer when I started to get boobs, you see, when my sister started me on it. She paused. He waited until I grew boobs. He wasn't all bad. He wouldn't have abused a little kid. And those were fairly darker points of the novel, but there's also a lot of hope and community. So I'll read from another section of A Birthday Party. There were candles. That was the first thing Kayla saw when she and Cerise stepped out onto Leon Avenue. Beyond the usual smattering of women standing around smoking, men in pulled-up hoodies sitting on bikes, and Marta with her brimming cart, a cluster of people were gathered around. In the middle of them was a cake. Mama B was singing Happy Birthday, grinning with no teeth. Some people who had walked by her as she panhandled could have taken her for a hard woman if they didn't stop and talk. Sitting on that sidewalk, her mouth a straight line, jaw jutting. But there was a smile there if anyone looked long enough to see. Mama B had her bad places, but had spent long enough of them that she didn't dwell there now. Teflon pulled out her knife. Her hands glinted with the many rings she wore as brass knuckles. Rings were not illegal. She went to cut the cake, but Naomi reached out and stopped her. Hold on, I want pictures. Naomi reached into the pocket of her coat, which was sewn with patches from punk bands and anarchy slogans. Hanging below her coat was the too big hoodie she wore every day, the one that said, "All cats are beautiful." Kayla liked what it said on the back. An injury to one is an injury to all. Marcel, with whom she shared her love and her tent, a home that didn't look like a home to most, stood beside her. He was a fruit picker from Quebec. Summers, he worked the fields and orchards. He would bring buckets of discarded fruit for folks on Leon, along with the best that he secretly saved from the fields. When Kayla had first arrived in town, she'd been surprised to see so many peach pits on the sidewalk. But like everything and everyone else, they got swept up by the city each morning. But Marcel would always bring more. Let me get a picture of the cake, Mama B instructed. I got that lettering done special. And she had. She hadn't stolen the cake, not because stealing a cake was out of her repertoire, but because she wanted it iced. Happy birthday, Naomi, in turquoise, Naomi's favorite color. Mama B bought it at Safeway, she would explain again and again as people came and went. And she wouldn't have stolen from Safeway anyway. Safeway didn't make a fuss if you wanted to use the washroom, and they were generous with their day-olds and produce past its prime. It would have been rude to steal from them. No, Mama B had counted out the change that she got from panhandling, letting all those in line see that she was a paying customer, just like them. It was a beautiful chocolate cake, rosettes and all, and with turquoise. Teflon began to cut the cake. Her hands were steady, just as they usually were, whether she had someone in a chokehold or was stabbing someone in the thigh with naloxone after an overdose, bringing them back to life. She was known for being good at both. I owe you a song, Dano said. I'll play for you when the piano's back out in the park for summer. I'll play you a great song. Kayla watched, taking it all in, feeling warm despite the cold. From behind a couple of the others, someone stepped forward, hood pulled up, gray beard hanging below, pant hems dragging. Old Nelson. He didn't say anything, just held out a ceramic vase. A profound crack snaked across the top. It had clearly once been in pieces, but he'd found a way to put it back together again. For your flowers. His voice was as rough as his hands. Naomi smiled. She had spent the summer giving out flowers on Leon Avenue, gifting people she knew and people she didn't know yet, with roses from the city's plantings. She believed more in sharing joy than in private property. I love it. It was a surprise to see Nelson here. He kept to himself except when he ran out of both drink and money. He was the last person anyone would expect at a party. But Kayla had seen, one night while curled in her sleeping bag on the street, that Naomi had been there to comfort him when he had one of his dreams that woke him up screaming. She never mentioned it to him in the morning, never mentioned it to anyone at all. A Mickey was being passed around. Buster was by now served his own piece of cake. Don't feed chocolate to dogs, Lily was saying. Maybe it's not real chocolate, someone else said. It's fine. It's real chocolate. As people dug into their cake, Kayla asked what she couldn't get out of her mind. Anyone seen Little Zoe? Shaking heads all around. She's missing out, Lily sighed. This cake is really good. But it wasn't the first time Little Zoe just disappeared, Kayla reassured herself. She always came back with a reason, with tales. Where's Ketchum, anyway? Don't know, but he returned my bike again, Teflon said. She had taken a bike from someone's porch, one with children's streamers on the handlebars, and Ketchum had returned it. Some things were not for stealing, according to his code. She had stolen it back. And now, apparently, so had he again. Time passed. Stories got told, sometimes told again. No one hurried. Here was the only place they had to be. Okay, everyone, gather around, Mama B was saying. Let's get a picture of us all together. Try as they did, it was hard to gather everyone. Some didn't know where to stand. Some wanted to be front and center. Some were uncertain if they should be in the picture at all. After a little shuffling and last-minute grabs and ducks and arms around each other, it was far from perfect, but everyone came together, such as they were. Cerise, Kayla called over. She realized she didn't have a single picture of her closest friends, not even one of little Zoe. Let me get a good one of you before we go. Kayla tried. What she captured was not exactly what she was aiming for, but was very much Cerise. She wasn't smiling, but neither did she have the steeled, unflinching look she knew how to give. She was just looking sideways, as if searching for the next thing, for something just out of view. All that was missing from that night was a certain laugh, a certain way of putting arms around another. Little Zoe had a stronger grip than you would expect from someone so small. She had a way of giving a hug that was not possessiveness, more a sharing of strength. And her laugh. She would toss her head back and smile wide, that one tooth missing, laughing into the sky, eyes as bright as stars. Thank you. So yeah, still was longlisted for the 2025 Giller Prize last fall, and I'm following it up with what I like to call a semi-sequel that I'm currently writing, entitled We Are All Here, and it's set in Kelowna a year later and follows some of the same characters, has some new characters as well, and is set during a wildfire that sweeps across the city. So it examines how people are living now and for the future from perspectives of the housed, the unhoused, and more than human beings as well. So on that note, I will now take any questions that you might have.
Yeah, if you have a question, please raise your hand. I'll run you the microphone. This is mainly for the benefit of the people watching online.
Hello, I would like to know, are you from Kelowna?
Not originally. I grew up in Guelph, Ontario, but moved to Kelowna 18 years ago.
Oh, that's interesting. So did you talk to some of similar people in the same situation?
Oh, definitely. I've been an outreach volunteer for 10 years, and have really gotten to know the street community very well. And it was actually in that context that I was so inspired to write about that community, because it is such a community and often gets very dismissed or stigmatized. And I wanted to show the really positive elements of that community.
That's very interesting. And so you talk to the community, but also to some of those people who had those type of experience?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you very much.
Oh, you're welcome.
Does anybody else have any questions? I have a couple. So you kind of already answered like why this story, I was wondering. But you kind of already answered. My second question was, what's kind of the process of planning out a novel like this? Like, do you start with like interviews? Do you write and then kind of adjust things as you learn more later on? Do you want to talk about your process a little bit?
Basically, I was really inspired by the street community and the friendships I formed there. I didn't know that I was going to evolve the novel into such a story about it, but it really ended up coming front and center. And I had originally had it more about Kayla, but the community just really came alive for me. And when I was talking with people on the street about the book, they got quite excited, and they'd always be like, "Oh, put this in, and put my favorite color in, and do this." So I constantly, they are some of my biggest fans. The book circulates around the community, and I've done events at community centers, where members of the unhoused have also been speakers at the events, and together we kind of raise consciousness about some of the issues facing unhoused people in Kelowna. And yeah, in terms of the process, I'd say talking to people a lot was a big part of it. Certainly letting the characters take the reins and letting them decide what the story wanted to be. It's a very character-driven novel, so I really got to know my characters and let them determine some of the trajectories of the stories. And sometimes they'd surprise me, so they took on lives of their own. And I just tried to be open with that and go with the flow that way. I ended up writing it 3 times. Basically having, I got it to one point and then read it and thought, oh, I can tweak this. And then I did that again. So a long iterative process that took from start to finish 5 years. But I was working full time as well at the time. Yeah, so it was lots of editing.
It always is.
Following what you just said, I am wondering, they opened up to you, obviously. How did you do that? Like, how did they end up trusting you? What kind of approach did you have?
Oh, I knew them a long time before starting to write, so they knew me really well.
Because of your outreach program?
Yeah.
Okay, so they knew you. Okay,
Yeah,
that
yeah.
makes sense.
So by the time I started writing it, they were already really close to me. So
okay.
there wasn't any formal interview process or anything like that. We would just bounce ideas. And
yes.
so yeah.
As an outreach worker, what kind of things did you do?
Basically we walk around, we give out hygiene supplies, harm reduction, warm clothes, protein shakes, water, pretty much anything you need to survive on the street. But first and foremost, we're there as a listening ear and just a community connection for people to have a constant if they want to check in with us, if they want to. We do bad date reporting for the sex workers, where we are a liaison because a lot of them don't want to talk to the police. So we can be a go-between a bit to do bad date reporting. And we also provide community resources. If a lot of the people on the street are the best experts about community resources, but if someone's new to the town, we can tell them where the shelters are and where to access healthcare and that kind of thing. And yeah, basically we're a listening ear.
Yeah, yes, I understand. It took 5 years to write the book. So you knew them before.
Yeah.
So you figure out before you even studied the book, how many years had you known them before you even,
It depends person to person. Some of them I had known like 5 years prior to writing it. Some of them I had just met that night.
yes.
The nights are always really different. So people come and go, and yeah.
Did you took notes sometimes? You were way before to write the notes?
No.
Before to write the book? No, never. It's all from memory.
Yeah.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you.
Any other questions? Oh, perfect. Right at the back.
I have a dumb question.
No questions.
Was it difficult to come up with a title?
Yes. But it came about because I used the word still a number of times because I wanted to have a sense of stillness and peace at times. And then I also wanted it to resonate in the sense of beauty still, and love still, and perseverance still, and strength still, as people are negotiating some really difficult situations and have a feeling of sustaining that hope and community still. So it kept coming back, and then I just realized it was the last line of the book, and then I was like, there's my title. So it came around eventually.
Titles are always really tricky. Whoop.
You mentioned stigma, but I didn't hear stigma in your readings. And I'm wondering, given that I'm sure you are intimately familiar with stigma, how you grappled with that in the storytelling process, because it was very much a celebration, it sounds, of who these people are and their lives and their hearts and their souls. But
yeah, not everyone in the book is super wholesome. Yeah, the characters are diverse as people out there are. I think it also does address some stigma within the community. Certainly there's a lot of stigma in Kelowna against the unhoused population, or people aren't sure what to do, so they just walk on by with their blinders on and pretend it doesn't, these people don't exist, I don't see you. So that's definitely addressed in the book, but I've also found it's been a really great opportunity when I'm at readings, and people, are learning more about that community. And it's been really exciting to see. And there've been lots of book clubs. There've been lots of really great discussions about initiatives the city is doing or should do. And yeah, it's been great because it's brought a really wide spectrum of people together talking. And it's especially great when I'm doing an event with some members of the unhoused community as well, so that people can hear directly from them and their lived experience. Yeah. I noticed that the characters you mentioned or like read about were mostly very young. Is there like something intentional about that? Or am I reading it wrong?
Oh,
It seemed like
you're
they were
not.
very young.
The main character's 18 and Little Zoe's 20. So they are younger, but and it's definitely focused on their stories, but just like the street community, there's people of all ages, like Mama B is in her 60s, Gloria's in her 60s, and there's lots of people in between.
So is there like a reason that you chose to show it from that lens though? Because it's like basically coming from the viewpoint of these younger characters from what I
Yeah.
understand.
I think that was just my comfort zone of writing. Was I was writing from a young woman's perspective. And everything kind of stemmed from there.
And was there anything like in terms of the people who helped you with it, where they didn't, like when the book was published, where they didn't agree with it, or that was a little confronting for them?
Not really. Everyone's been really happy. I kind of ran anything that I had any questions about with people, and generally they were super happy to have a more positive celebration of the community showcased and represented, and felt seen and heard has been the biggest comment that I've gotten from the community. And yeah, it's been great, because I'll now just be walking down the street and someone's like, "You're Joe," and like, "I read your book," and there's top copies circulating at Tent City, and yeah, it's been really special. Do you have a question, Syilx?
Yes, hello, you talked about harm reduction. Could you tell us a little bit, how we learn about it in the book, if it's explained?
It's not explained in like a textbooky kind of way. It's just kind of there. But what we hand out are basically safe drug use supplies and naloxone kits, and like clean needles and that kind of thing. And basically, it's just kind of one of the many elements of life out there. And that's how it's represented in the book.
Okay, thank you. And also, does it go beyond, afterwards when they stopped doing the, distribution of needles and all that, of the consequences? Does it show that on the characters maybe, or?
I haven't, this was written when harm reduction is still really readily available.
Okay, yes. Thank you.
Perfect. All right. Any other questions from the crowd? Oh,
I may have missed this, but when did you publish your book?
it came out September 25.
I have another couple of questions. Your outreach, do you have a social work background?
I don't.
This is just something that you
Just
took on volunteer.
Volunteer, yeah.
So I'm quite curious about it. Do you go out in the daytime or the
Nighttime.
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 In a group?
We go out in pairs,
In
because
pairs?
a group could be kind of intimidating to approach. So we want to be approachable, but always work in pairs. So we started with an organization that had existed for a while, and it eventually folded, and my outreach partner and I didn't want the community to be left in a lurch. So we started our own outreach organization in autumn of 24. And we're slowly growing it. We want to do it slowly and sustainably and really responsibly. We've partnered with the UBCO School of Nursing, where we can train volunteers and work with them that way. So people have either a nursing or social work background before they come and volunteer with us as students. So they don't have professional background yet. But they've got a way of thinking. And yeah, so we're doing that and growing it slowly. And
yeah, we always go out at night because our we interact and are there for everybody, all demographics, all genders. But we're especially attuned to people working in the sex trade. So since a lot of that, I mean, it happens any time of the day, but it is easier to connect with people at night. And there's also fewer outreach. Well, we're the only outreach service that is at night. There are other ones in our city by day, and there's Interior Health, which does a great job with mobile buses. But we're the only nighttime outreach.
Is your partner male or female?
She's female.
You feel safe out there? Have you ever
We're
been-
super safe.
Yeah.
Because the street community knows us, and the only time we've ever had issues are like drunk tourists, and then the street community was like, we have your backs. Like we feel really safe.
So your characters are fictional.
Yeah.
Probably composite of all the people.
Exactly. There's one person, Mama B is loosely based on a real person, who's definitely the biggest fan. And she's since moved to Edmonton. Yeah, it's everyone else is a conglomerate and totally fiction.
One more question.
Yeah.
Are the streets and places fictional made up, or are they?
No, they're
really
real.
exist? Because that-
They're real. I
Yeah.
gave the shelter a made up name, but Leon Avenue is the main strip where a lot of people live. It's getting gentrified right now since the book has come out. 2 condo buildings have gone up there, and it's very people are told to move along, so people have been displaced. So Leon Avenue itself has actually undergone a really big cultural shift in the last couple of years, and it's actually made our work harder because people are more displaced and more decentralized. So it's harder to, we always used to have a route where we could depend on seeing, so and so sleeps there, so and so is over here, etc. But now it's a little harder to connect with people. The city's doing some great things with tiny home initiatives, but some of the gentrification has created new problems.
I think that this is maybe the most questions an audience has ever asked, actually. This is crazy. I think we could go on all night, certainly. But I will maybe wrap up the Q&A portion with just another question. I'm a bookseller. I'm always curious. I've seen you've been shopping around as well. I'm just curious, what kind of books inspire you? What do you like to read?
Ooh, wow, everything. The stack here is inspired by my new novel, so there's a lot of climate focused readings over there. The climate book, What If We Get It Right by Joanna Elizabeth Johnson is in that stack, and it's looking at visions of climate futures. So I'm looking at that a lot in my next book, specifically not always from a privileged position. So looking at how climate impacts the unhoused community. When there's a forest fire, you can't just go inside. And if you go into the mall, you're deemed suspicious, etc. So looking at all sorts of factors there. In terms of favorite authors, I would say Toni Morrison is probably my absolute favorite author. Beloved is an incredible work. Certainly I like works by Dennis Johnson, Patrick Lane, Arundhati Roy. I read pretty much everything and anything. Yeah.
I have to ask because I work here, but well, I just wanted to thank you again for coming out to Saskatchewan and Saskatoon.
Yeah.
We're so very, very grateful to have you. I want to thank the audience for having such great questions and for being such a great audience. My goodness. And just a reminder, if you'd like to purchase a copy of the book, we have them up there. We have them back here. Feel free to get it signed. please buy it after if you do. But yeah, another round of applause for Joanna. Thank you, everybody.
And thank you all for being a great audience and for so many great questions. That was wonderful. Really appreciate it. And thanks for the warm welcome to Saskatoon.